Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be reviewing Milton, a modular bookcase with its structure completely made of metal, many options, many colors to choose from. Let's dive in. The founding element of the Milton bookcase system, of course, is the upright. The upright creates a perimeter, so you have a back part, a front part, you have the lower part on the ground with its adjustable feet, so if you have uneven ground you can adjust it, and then you have this upper element which connects the back part and the front part. So as we said, it creates a perimeter. This structure has a front width of 4 centimeters and a thickness of 2 centimeters. And in particular, I'd like to point out how in the back upright you have this screw with which you can adjust. Of course, you can unscrew it and then it gets softer and you can move this support for the shelves upwards or downwards. And while on the front upright, you have a different section which is divided in 2 parts, and there's a hollow part in which you can add lighting. In the showroom, we could not display the LED system because we did not have electricity nearby in this section of the showroom, and but the effect is especially interesting because the LED light, it creates a light of 4000 degrees Kelvin, and of course you have the power supply included, and you have an optional remote controller, so you can actually activate it through a switch which you have in your system, or to the remote controller. And it's especially interesting, its effect. It's very similar to the effect that you have on our Byron collection, because you have this back-facing vertical strip which creates light, does diffuse light on the wall, and then it's the wall that reflects the lighting towards you and towards the room, and I very much like that sort of effect. More about the uprights. Of course, you can custom make them by the millimeter in height, from 60 centimeters to 3 meters. Okay, you can custom make them in depth from 28, which is the minimum depth of the Milton bookcase, to 34, which is its maximum depth. So only 6 centimeters range, and this is meant for structural reason, to keep it stable even if it's rather shallow, and to keep it very firm and resistant even if it's deeper. So from 28 to 34. We have 3 types of uprights. We have the standard wall uprights, we have the suspended wall uprights, so pretty much identical to these, but they are not resting on feet down below and they are completely suspended. And then you have the floor to ceiling upright, and you know, here in the showroom we have, I will use a bad word, we have a fake setting. Why fake? Because well, a showroom is not like a real home, but we could have also in a real home a situation like this where we don't have a bookshelf, a bookcase against the wall, or a completely freestanding bookcase. We have a situation where we have the first part which is against the wall and the second part which comes out from the wall, because maybe we have a niche like this and then we want to divide the rest of the space. And so the nice aspect is that these 3 types of uprights, standard wall upright, suspended wall upright, and the floor to ceiling one, we can combine them in compositions, and this means a flexible, a powerful tool to design. More about the uprights, technical aspects. Well, we can, of course, when we design our composition, we can decide what distance we want to have between 2 uprights, and you know that above 90 centimeters we will have to add an additional support in the middle of the shelf, and we cannot have a distance between 2 uprights wider than 130. So below 90 centimeters, no support. Between 90 and 130 you need to add the support. When you go over 130 you need to add another upright in the middle. So let's cover the topic of the shelves that go on the Milton bookcase system. So we can have shelves from 30 centimeters to 220. And what is important to know is that we can have shelves that cross through a certain upright. So, for example, we have this shelf here that goes from here to here, and it is supported by these 2 uprights, but it is supported in the middle. So shelves do cross the uprights. Another thing to know is that we can have shelves that do sprout out, they come out from the uprights. We have an example here. And I must admit that the decorative use of this approach is quite limited, because this width can only be a maximum of 10 centimeters. So we cannot have the shelf coming out by 30 or 40 centimeters. Well, we might if we add an additional support, an external support on the shelf, but in this situation where it's self-standing, well, it's only 10 centimeters. Let's talk about the materials that we can use on the shelves. We can have metal, and we have these 2 millimeters thick metal panel, which is folded towards the front with a fold of 5 millimeters, and this creates a very resistant structure, even though it's super thin, and this is what makes it cool. Then we have the glass shelves, and glass shelves, well, we have a wealth of nearly 60 different shelves. We can have transparent glass, we can have glossy stained glass, we can have matte stained glass, so all sorts of options. And this, to give you an idea, is the bronze glass. I do love it because it's transparent, but it is shaded, so you do see shapes through it, especially if you have much light. But it's not fully transparent as a transparent glass. Then we have laminate shelves. We don't have them here in the showroom. They are 18 millimeters thick, and we have 17 different laminates to choose from. And you can also have textures like stone effect or wood effect and whatnot. And then you have the MDF lacquered shelves. They are 25 millimeters, and they are lacquered with the same exact finishes of the uprights. And now we get to talk about the finish that we can use on the uprights. Of course, it's powder paint, so it's very reliable in years. It's not liquid paint. It's basically painted like you would paint a car, a very reliable process. We have a wealth of colors, because we have the standard black, we have 14 additional standard colors, and then we have RAL coloring. RAL, well, you know, it's I would say it's a luxury in a sense, because it gives you hundreds of colors to choose from. But the nice thing about it is that you can match a certain color of wallpaper, you can combine a certain lacquered cabinet coming from another collection, different factory or whatever, and the possibility of being able to choose, oh, I want that specific type of yellow for my Milton bookcase, or that specific type of red. Well, of course, that's a nice luxury to enjoy. So let's talk about accessories. Once you have built your composition of uprights and shelves, you can go on and improve this composition, and you can have open compartments. They are lacquered, and they can be 30, 60 or 90 centimeters. You can have tilting door cabinets, and these are in fixed dimensions. You can have 60, 90 and 120. And then we get to the, well, you know, here we have this pantry based, well, pantry purpose bookcase, and you know, here we have this example, but you can imagine a Milton composition more targeted towards books or towards placing your pictures, or a mix of them. Well, we get to the more pantry use accessories, and see, here we have this glass shelf, but here we see a tray, which of course allows things not to move around. We have these racks for glasses, and then we have the specific shelves for bottles, and this also was a bit tricky. Well, nothing, it's not as complicated as launching a missile in space, but it was tricky in the sense that with the first prototype, the holes here were a bit too tiny and were not compatible with all bottles, and so with the second attempt we found the right balance between the tilt of the shelf, because it needed to be tilted but not too much, and with the dimension and proportions of the hole, so that different type of bottles can stay rather stable. And you know, I will finish with this. Milton, in some ways, it's very basic, because it's what is it made of? It is made of uprights and shelves. On the other hand, the customization degree of these uprights, shelves and accessories, together with all the colors, makes it possible that there's not a single Milton bookcase identical to another, and it will be your idea, your vision of the vision of your room that makes it possible to develop the Milton bookcase into something unique. So we've come to the end of today's product review about the Milton bookcase with its customization features, its multiple colors, multiple type of uprights, infinite types of composition that you can build. We are waiting for your composition to be built.